Greetings, everyone. It's Nick Ottinger here with Team Conti Sim Performance. I'm also here with Adam Benefiel on the track to give you guys a track guide for the Indianapolis 500 and some avenues of what we may look at for racing scenarios, what we have in building draft, building some momentum in the draft, and really timing when to actually pass people. And also, additionally, we have some adjustments we're going to factor into working into the car, the weight jacker, some front and rear bar adjustments on, in traffic versus ultimately in clean air. So just want to give you guys some direction and let this kind of play through. And once we go through some of these laps, I really want to actually debrief with you guys what I'm looking at and what Adam's looking at as well. So that said, we're just opening the first couple of laps here, pretty easy and keeping some speed up and keeping the car optimal, even in dirty air. You will definitely feel that at the start of a run, but it still will be optimal. And we really want to gauge our entry distance to the car ahead if we're in those scenarios. So, that said, I'm going to let this play through. There's going to be a couple differences we could do as well. Adam's in sixth gear here, clean air. I'm up in fifth gear. Okay, so there's some tendencies that can definitely be induced differently if you're trying to actually run within, I would say, closer to the car ahead, proximity wise. You may actually have to utilize upshift and six, because the momentum you're building and the draft is also, giving you that ability to push through the air with no really anything on the front wing, rear spoiler. You're letting the car ahead push through the air, and you're just reaping the rewards of him doing that. So you can see Adam built a big run to me, just in one lap, and he's gauging his gap here, and that's all he's doing is just gauging this gap. I'm giving him really no ability to get cleaner air down to that curb, and now he's having to shift up to six, right? And look at all this momentum he builds. Closer he gets, he's going to actually work towards adjusting his entry. I'm ultimately making him think what line I'm going to run in front of him. That's the hard part with a trailing car. That's the hard part for a trailing car in this avenue, right? So he's building his momentum to me, and in this case, he's nowhere close to make a move on me, right? So let's think about this. With this move, he has to build a lot more momentum to get closer to me, and at this point, the straight is going to end very soon, right? You got all the scoreboard here, and if he's not building momentum and really right to my rear bumper, he has no chance to make a move and make a pass. Okay, so this is where it is important to recognize as a driver, I don't have that momentum built. So do I want to build my momentum into turn one and make a pass? Well, you got to make sure that momentum's coming off of turn four. And additionally speaking, in a scenario like this, Adam's thinking I need to actually lift and make sure I'm not getting tighter the closer I get to the car in front. And you can see he's going to build all this momentum to me, right? But now he's going to turn in. And in this case, this is why it is optimal to block that air for a trailing car, okay? He doesn't know what lane I'm going to run. He may actually go cut in earlier and have a shallow entry. And if I start cutting to the bottom now, he's going to recognize, okay, I need to actually dissipate more speed so I don't push tight once I'm trying to hold this weight line up here. And you can see, I give him all this room, right? Like I'm full throttle. I give him all this room. He downshifts. And at this point, I'm going to give him some more capability in air. And this is where you guys can see if I blocked his air, he's going to have a struggle point to actually get closer this early. And that was going to push some front slip to the front tires that you see here. And he was going to have to dissipate more speed on entry and build his momentum later off the corner. Or he was going to take, the ability of pushing tight and then have to get off throttle coming to his exit near the turn 2 exit here. So with that said, I ran a higher line just to give him some clean air so you guys can see some transparency of how that hurts you as the lead car. And why that is, he's just going to be able to build a run with ease on it now. He's way closer than I would want him to be in this scenario. Later into a race, with the laps closing down, he's where I would want this distance to be. I would want this to be on entry to turn 3, so he does not have a chance to make a move. But instead, we're already a third of the way, quarter of the way, in between that, and he's already building his run, to pass me into turn 3. So very important. He's going to be able to easily make a move halfway down a back stretch. He makes the move, I back out. Because now in this situation, I want to make sure I'm not getting too close and pushing tight. So you can see he takes all this air on the inside away from the left side, the wing plate and everything, so I'm not getting any positive air to this car. I'm getting negative, air and a lot of turbulence because he's turning in, and now I'm having to push through all this wake he's creating, and that's just disrupting the airflow to the front wing. So that's pushing me tight. He's getting all this clean air, no waves, imaginary waves that you could see, and he's going to take my center away, and that's going to push me tight. So if I wanted to, I could have pushed through the front tires, and that would have been tough for me. I really just early into a run, we're lap 3 of this run, right? I don't want to push through it. But you're going to start seeing me mess with this front roll bar and rear roll bar position to help some traffic tendencies, and also the weight jacker that you see right here. I keep this at 5 early on just because that's a preference for me. And if I have a short run and I know the car needs to actually pitch and, rotate better, I'll bring this up to 10. Okay. So this scenario here, you see, I'm fully in his dirty air, all the way in his dirty air. Let's get a little closer, and you can see fully in his dirty air. And now I'm going to push tight. I have so much wheel input into it. So I'm going to push off the corner a little bit higher than him. But I have all this ability now. With being this close, even with him passing me in a 3, I can make a move if I wanted to, right? I can make this move early like he did on me on the back stretch and make the pass. But here, I want to make sure how the car is going to actually progress. And here I would actually shift up to 6, so I'm not really messing with anything. You can see I mess with the bars now. I want to get a gauge of what the car is going to do in traffic. I don't really want to go side by side into this corner either, because I don't want to slow us both down and slow our momentum down towards turn 2. And if we had a third or fourth trailing car behind us, they would just be able to make a move when we're side by side majority of the times, because we're just pulling each other back and slowing each other down. So I would rather us in a situation early in the race just not worry about that, and try to hurt ourselves in that moment. So now I'm going to enter a little bit higher to get some cleaner air. You can see, enter a little bit higher. I fully lifted, obviously, close to it. And now I have all this clean air. Now my main focus as a driver, I'm thinking ahead to turn 2. Pretty simple. I'm thinking ahead to turn 2. And why that's a benefit, because you have a longer straight. This short shoot between turns 1 and 2 and turns 3 and 4, you're not going to make a lot of moves there, unless some of the cars are just really edgy or whatever it may be. So I'm building a run, keeping clean air in this situation, and I created the gap that I wanted to here. And now I'm going to build this momentum towards turn 2. And you can see I got a little bit of clean air there, and now my run is still forming. I don't really want to pass him in this situation because, again, we talked about it. You're going to be in a scenario where it's early in the race. So these factors come into play. Like, I may actually need to save fuel. I may need to save a little bit more fuel, and I don't want to lead and be the car that's burning through more, fuel than anybody else and have to pit a lap or 2, 3 or 4 laps before. So this is something you have to factor in for you guys as well to look into. Now in this situation, I'm going to bring, this balance, very similar. See how much I just let him get out here? I still have my weight jacker at +5. And look at this distance I created. You know, before, the lap before, we talked about how when I was closer and he took this air away from me, now I'm at a greater distance. I don't have that really air turbulence disrupting me to the same magnitude. So now I created a good distance where I can actually stay full throttle here and use this momentum I'm building because of all the draft I have in front of me. And just look how much I close in on him in this case, right? Look how much I close in on him. Now, obviously not close to make a move, but think about how that can help you later into a run and progressing through a run. Is you're not pushing the front right off this car in dirty air. You're creating that gap and giving yourself ability to keep the car balanced. You're not having to chase the balance of the car and maneuver all these, bar positions to help the car rotate or help the car stabilize, and the weight jacker as well, keeping it optimal. So now, again, same thing. I want to make sure I'm going to build my run towards turn 2 here. And now I'm a little bit closer. He doesn't give me much air at all, but car's pretty optimal. Lap 5 of a run. Can build a run here once again. And now you can see the difference. I added some rear ARB and I got all this momentum built, and I took this chance to go inside. Now we're going to go side by side here, and then he thought better of it once again. Same thing I did when he passed me, thought better of it. I give him all this ability to, once again, let's look at this. Give him all this ability again to get into his entry to the center way before me. But now, as soon as I cross this to where I am on the seam, you could see he has no real ability to hold this line. He gets tighter because look how much wheel input he has. He has to hold this a little bit longer. He has to hold it a little bit longer, and now, since he's using the draft, he can use what he needs. So, just something to factor in once again. And look, he gets his run built at the start-finish line. He's going to go side by side. And if I wanted to, I could have stayed, ultimately, I could have, if I already knew he's going to build a run, and as a driver who wants to continually pass and leapfrog like this, in a closing laps, like in a scenario like that, I may want to race this guy because maybe I want to slow us both down so we have a third guy coming into the equation, and I can put him in a situation to have to really worry about his, dirty air, and then factor in his momentum and building his runs more than having to worry about two cars and just worrying about me. I need an extra factor for him to worry about in that scenario too. But here, no issue staying full throttle. I'm in 5th gear still, and look how close I am here. I get a little bit tight. Same thing. He gets a little loose. Look at that. Look at that catch he had out there, right? Like, that's a quality you guys can really look into, dive into what happened here, right? He took all my air away, and him thinking about this, Adam thinking about doing this got him out of whack because I know you guys can't see it on his screen, but on his weight jacker, once he passed me, he had the weight jacker like he was still behind me. So he had the car, the right side of the car, the right rear, he had it more towards an oversteer characteristic like he was in traffic. But now he's got all this clean air. He has all this clean air to push through. And now he essentially got it cutting so much, and he got it really loose before he even clipped this curb, okay? And now he's just catching it. He's having to balance it out, and now he's in a state of almost panic because he's got to catch the car at a 200 plus miles an hour. And in this car, very easy to spin it out. But being an Adam saved it, I mean, look how much momentum it cost him. Look what he had to do. All that progress he did, that could be a split-second decision of what ends somebody's race in a scenario like that, because they're worried about giving the guy dirty air behind and not recognizing that they're going to be passing the guy, and they passed him already. Now, they don't change the weight jacker position, and they're too free in that clean air. So that's why you got to think on, if you're going to make moves, being reactionary in some cases as well like that, but being aware that, okay, I need to actually adjust the cross weight of this car. I need to make sure I'm not keeping too much weight to the right rear and being too edgy. So you could tell that hurt him quite heavily. He lost that position he gained. I give him plenty of ability to get in entry here again, and now I want to take this away as much as possible. So I'm going to keep him in that air. But look what happens now. Still builds a run on me, and this is 2 cars again. So look what he does. Gets a run, tries this again. So I would not hesitate to pull moves like that for sure. And in a scenario, if you're trying to, as our notes describe, the great notes that we've provided, from last year into this year, in a scenario, you really want to actually leapfrog in these scenarios, so you're creating faster lap times, and that's going to be a benefit because now you're shortening the race up, obviously, quicker lap times. You're forcing other people to have to be quicker too if they're trying to save fuel, for instance. So a lot of scenarios come into play in this. But that's just something to factor in. You've got all this capability again. Look at this. We're building runs at the same portion about halfway down the back stretch. Now I'm going to shift my mindset really to try to delay when he's going to get to me. This trailing car when he's going to get to me. And you see I put him in some dirty air. Adam thought about trying to do a higher entry, and that's what we tried doing. Got him a little tight on entry because I got him guessing if I was going to turn in earlier or later, and I turned in a little earlier than normal. So he turned in a little bit later, pushing a little tight into it. So now, look at this. I'm putting him in a spot where if I stayed in that straight line, he was going to build that run back up and pass me at the start-finish line, and I would have to concede that position. So now I'm breaking this draft. Pretty simple. Now he's not even going to get to my bumper, and at the scoreboard, this is where we are now. The difference a lap makes to where he passed me the lap before and I just stayed in line to where he could use all this draft. Now I'm putting him behind the 8-ball, per se, because now he has to build his run in a different part of the track instead of the normal run that he's been doing off of turn 4. So what Adam has to do is here, he has to concede on entry because he's not going to have the run down here. He's just doesn't have the speed that he would carry because, again, he's topped out on 5th gear, essentially. He's not able to shift to 6th because he's not carrying that extra speed. So now I'm going to get him tight. In a scenario like this, if drivers are having this characteristic and they're just passing you in one area, as a competitor, you're trying to change that timing up, right? And we just talked about it. Adam's timing his runs off of turn 4, and all I did this time was I broke his draft. That's all I did. I broke his draft, and now maybe he gets a run off of turn 2, and this extra lap provides me, this extra set of corners to where he's not used to passing me off of 2. He's used to clean air. That's going to maybe give me more ability to have an extra lap to live on him passing me in this scenario, or completely mitigate any ability he has for the rest of the race to pass me because of that one moment. So let's think ahead on that, and that's, again, additionally something to think on as a driver that will help you maybe win a race, keep a position, or progress your position because of factors like this, okay? So obviously give them all this ability again. I keep this momentum, and look at that. This difference, I know I keep stopping and rewinding, but look at this. I changed that mentality up, right? I took all that, draft he had the lap before, and I took about 30% of that draft he had on the straightaway away, and it's going to get to me. So now with him going to actually having, okay, now I'm in a different spot. I'm in dirty air in a turn 1. Now he thinks he has some clean air here. What I'm going to do is going to cut across it, take his clean air away, and he's going to push him tight because he's not ready for that. He's not in that position on the weight jacker per se as well on keeping the car balanced in the front and rear bars. He may be in a scenario that he's thinking he's going to be in and setting himself up for cleaner air, and he pushes the car tight because his settings he has on the steering wheel. So A lot of factors play into this car. A lot of factors play into the situation. So now I got a little bit tighter, and I have all this extra ability to carry my momentum off of turn 2. And what I'm going to do again, simple. Just use that ability I have and distance to where he's not going to be able to get to a run in the 3 here. And if I needed to, I could have broke some more draft that lap. But again, gamesmanship, this is what you got to worry about in Indy 500, something that can help you guys. And definitely an area we would look into doing consistently once it comes down to laps into a run, nearing, a fuel run, or near an end of a race. These moments add up. So these moments may be what you need to have. Say you're in 10th place and you need to hold off 11th, but you know you have the capability to push up to the lead. This may be a scenario that you have to factor in. All these things that we talked about may be what you need to do. So just think about that. All this can also change based on your wind direction and wind speed. So something to just keep in the back of your mind, be aware of. And you can see I'm not trying to break his draft now. He's going to get that run for him pretty easy. So yeah, I thought that was some pretty good, I would say, pinpoint areas to look into when building a run. And I really want to focus towards the lap 13 on, and I'll let this play and go to lap 13 here. And let's look at this. You see at the start finish line, look where I am here. Our mindset right here was trying to generate the closest point we could actually get to passing the car that was ahead before the Brickyard, finish line. So let's bring this back. I'm in a scenario here. Let's rewind this for this next lap. Adam builds a run this next lap. And let's see. He's built a run. He's able to pass me. So he tried timing this on me at the start finish line. Didn't quite get me either, right? So now I'm going to try to do the same thing, just to time my runs, time my ability to get to the start finish line. And it's equally important to remember that, because I can get the run formed here into 3, and that may help me, but he may be too close to me later into the run on that checkered flag lap, that white flag to checkered flag lap. And maybe I don't want to be in that spot. Maybe I want to factor in getting this run off of turn 4. So maybe I needed to time this run a little bit better, or I maybe needed to time it just sooner. Maybe I pulled out too soon. But you can see right there. Let's look at this. Let's look at this run that forms. Maybe I created too much gap here in a 3. Maybe I needed to be a little bit closer. So let's look at this. Maybe I didn't need to lift fully out of the throttle for that long, and I just needed to be half a car length closer. And in this scenario, maybe I didn't need to open this entry up as much. And why that's important is because look at the distance at the start-finish line. This is just time to the start-finish line. About really a quarter of a car. Okay? Quarter of a car right at the start-finish line. The half a car. Look at that. So I timed that probably in a good area, but I didn't utilize the full magnitude of it like I could have. Okay? So definitely it's going to change based on your wind direction. It's going to change on your wind speed as well. Maybe the car doesn't turn quite as good in turn 4 because of the wind, so you may have to factor these things in a corner before or half a track before on the other side of the track to help you have a benefit to pass some of these cars. So, yeah, that's going to do it for us here at Team Conti Sim Performance. I just want to appreciate Adam for spending some time doing these laps with me, kind of showcasing what we would do in traffic, why it's important, and ultimately just to give some insight towards how fun this car is. Even though, you're in a lot of really dirty air to clean air, like it's really gamesmanship, it's really craftsmanship in adapting to some passes, adapting to some scenarios, and then putting yourself in the best position. So with that said, I appreciate you guys tuning in. And if you guys have any questions, please reach out to myself or Adam in our Discord. And if you guys need anything, just reach out. Appreciate you guys.